Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's live stream news summary from Moscow program. It is 2nd of December. Now it's 11 o'clock in the morning Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major topics that Russian media is focused on. And if you like the video, please leave some commentary about any topic really. Click that like button, share video with your friends. This might help to deal with the shadow ban that my channels are basically in both platforms, on YouTube and Rumble. I'm streaming on both simultaneously. And well, if you want to support my work, dear friends, you can do it through several means. All the links to PayPal, Boosty, are under this video in description box and in the pinned comment. And of course, it will be great if you will consider to join our community on Patreon or Boosty. By the way, I have pages on both platforms, and I'm sharing extra content quite often on both my channels there. You will find the links also under this video and during the live stream itself, because I'm streaming on YouTube and Rumble simultaneously. You can of course use super chat feature on Rumble to support my work. Unfortunately, my channel is not monetized on YouTube and never gonna be monetized, so there is no super chat feature on YouTube for me. Okay, that's being said, dear friends, let's go through some news, and I will try to make this news update short. Let's see how it will work out. And first of all, let me start with this report, which is obviously a big deal. None of our members of our community, are going to be surprised, but nevertheless, it's official now that Krasnoarmeysk or Pokrovsk and Volchansk cities are liberated by Russian forces. This is official information that is coming from Russian leadership, military and political leadership. Yesterday, information was shared with the public that on 30th of November, by the way, Vladimir Putin visited a command post of a joint group of forces where he received reports on liberation of Krasnoarmeysk, that is Pokrovsk, and Volchansk. Presidential press secretary Dmitry Peskov reported about it, and yesterday quite a number of videos were shared with the public about visit of Russian president to this headquarters. Army General Valery Gerasimov reported to the Supreme Commander-in-Chief on the liberation of cities of Krasnoarmeysk, Pokrovsk in the DPR, and Volchansk in the Kharkov region, as well as on the results of offensive operations by troops in other areas. He said, I can give you some more details from this report here. On top of that, Valery Salachuk, commander of the Center Group of Forces, reported to Putin on the progress of eliminating hostile forces encircled in the agglomeration area of Pokrovsk-Mirnograd. Mirnograd has a Russian name, Dimitrov, by the way, including establishing control over the southern part of Dimitrov, Mirnograd, and about situation in Krasnoarmeysk following its liberation. He added that destruction of enemy forces continues in Dimitrov, that is Mirnograd. Saladuk also reported that groups fighters continue their offensive in all directions. Gerasimov also reported that Zapad group of forces entered the Krasny Liman, or Liman, by the way, also Kharkov region. Fighting was ongoing in the eastern and eastern parts of the city. The villages of Zvanovka, Vasyukovka, and Petrovska has been also liberated. Dnipro fighters, Dnipro group of forces, are conducting an offensive in the Zaporozhye direction and have encircled the settlement of Stepnogorsk. I reported about it yesterday, dear friends, that there were some reports about some suggestions or reports, basically, that Stepnogorsk was encircled by Russian troops, and there are a significant number of Kiev regime's forces going to be in that cauldron now. Russian forces are also continuing to tighten their encirclement to eliminate their trapped Ukrainian forces on the left bank of the Starya Skol River. The chief of the general staff reported the units and the military units of the joint group of forces will continue to conduct active offensive operations with the goal of completely liberating Donbass. Gerasimov also said. In turn, Vostok, commander of the Vostok group of forces, Andrei Ivanev, reported to the president on the start of operation to liberate Gulyai-Polye in the Zaporozhye region. Units of the 5th Army are engaged in a street fighting in the northern eastern part of the city. You know, dear friends, I reported in previous days that as a result of chaotic retreat of Kyiv regime's forces from the eastern side of Gulyai-Polye, Russian troops follow these Kyiv regime's troops and entered the Gulyai-Polye itself with minimal resistance, and now clearing operation is taking place inside the Gulyai-Polye, and some military experts are predicting that Russian military is going to liberate Gulyai-Polye in significantly less time than, for example, liberation of Pokrovsk needed. He also reported that Vostok group of forces actively advancing in southern Dnipropetrovsk and eastern Zaporozhye regions, and the liberation of Dobropolye has been completed. The commander of the southern group of forces, Sergei Medvedev, reported that fighting is underway for the city of Seversk. The head of the state thanked the commanders and personnel of the groups for their successful actions. And basically, let me show you on the map, dear friends, now areas that we are talking about. Of course, many of you are familiar with the battle map, but nevertheless, let's go through some details here. Yet again, no reports about some major changes in Kherson direction, but when it comes to Zaporozhye sector, well, this is Stepnogorsk settlement, which is encircled by Russian forces, and I assume significant number of Kyiv regime troops are basically trapped now in some central parts of this settlement. Major stronghold of Kyiv regime on the most western flank of Zaporozhye sector. Russian troops also advancing, improving their positions literally on daily basis in Orekhov direction, but of course, focus of the media is on Gulyai-Polye, most eastern stronghold of Kyiv regime in this sector, and well, as reports are suggesting, Russian troops are already inside the city. And yesterday I read one article according to which some 30% of Gulyai-Polye is under Russian control now. About 30%. Difficult to say. Obviously, I'm not there on the ground, but I'm quite sure liberation of Gulyai-Polye not going to take too long, maybe a week or two, and that's going to be it. Right. Also, we have reports about finalizing clearing operation in Dobropolye settlement on the northern side of Gulyai-Polye, and this information was confirmed by Russian militaries. Of course, when it comes to Pokrovsk, Mirnograd agglomeration, this is Pokrovsk, by the way, under complete Russian control. And when it comes to Mirnograd, southern part of the city is under Russian control. And when it comes to main body of the town, northern part, Russian forces are advancing and taking time, by the way. There is no hurry, basically no need to rush the developments. Russian militaries will take whatever time is necessary. And also, I'm quite sure regularly Kyiv regime's forces will receive an offer from Russian militaries to lay down arms and surrender. And once that will surrender, will of course make a best decision of their lives, because they're gonna be safe, right? They're not gonna die for a Western geopolitical agenda or geopolitical agenda of the Western ruling class and for this terrorist regime in Kyiv that is supported by the West. Also, dear friends, interesting reports are coming in regards to Konstantinovka. According to articles that I read yesterday evening, this morning, about 25-30% of Konstantinovka is also under Russian control. Most eastern, southern eastern parts of the settlement city, basically, which is obviously significant. And yesterday, if you remember, I reported about very significant breakthrough of the Russian forces on the northern western side of Konstantinovka in area of Klinova, and I think this is decisive operation that Russian militaries conducted successfully. Soon Konstantinovka gonna end up in operational or maybe even complete encirclement. Seems like that's the trajectory of the developments in Konstantinovka direction. And also Russian president was informed about liberation of Volchansk city. This is not a surprise, of course, for none of you. I was reporting about significant progress of the Russian armed forces in this direction, but now it's officially confirmed that yes, Volchansk is liberated by Russian troops, and right now Russian offensive continues in direction of Vilcha and Liman settlements. Both Russian militaries managed to establish their strong presence, according to reports, in both these villages on the southern western side of Volchansk itself. Initiative is, of course, in Russian hands all along the front line, and there is not even theoretical chance that either Kyiv regime or their Western backers will manage to regain initiative anywhere or to turn the tide. Not happening. That's been said, dear friends. Let's continue with some other news. And RIA Novosti, for example, reporting that Russian armed forces neutralized Ukrainian mercenaries or mercenaries of the Kyiv regime from Czech Republic and Poland in the Sumy region. So I guess both these republics soon gonna receive body bags, a lot of it, right? With their special forces, probably fighters. Russian military airstrike eliminated Czech and Polish mercenaries of their Kyiv regime's forces in the Sumy region. Security officials told the RIA Novosti as a result of a precision strike, a group of 40 mercenaries from 47th Separate Mechanized Brigade of the Kyiv regime's armed forces were destroyed. They are casualties among Czech and Polish mercenaries, agency's source said. And yet again, I think this is not just ordinary mercenaries, some psychos, either from Czech Republic or from Poland, that decided that, well, they're going to go and die for Western geopolitical agenda. I think this is well-trained special forces of both these quasi-states, Czech Republic and Poland, right? And they've been eliminated. And when it comes to Czech Republic, I don't know how many militaries and intelligence community representatives they lost in this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. But when it comes to Poland, by the way, casualty numbers, according to some military experts, is over 10,000 on the Polish side. Over 10,000. And whenever there is a conversation about Polish losses in this proxy war, I always remember statements that was made by U.S. military expert, U.S. Military veteran, decorated military veteran, Colonel Douglas McGregor, who on several occasions, based on his sources, stated that Poland lost 10 to 12,000 military personnel, disguised as mercenaries, but nevertheless, it's their militaries, right? Since the beginning of this proxy war. So nothing new for Poland, that they are losing significant number of troops. But when it comes to Czech Republic, I don't know how many troops they lost. Dozens, most likely. But, well, that's the report we are receiving. And also, I think this news deserves some attention, by the way. Vzglyad newspaper and many other media outlets reported here in Russia that Russian Iran drones have been spotted over Kyiv controlled territory while carrying air-to-air short-range missiles, right? Which is quite interesting. So, according to Ukrainian side, some drones of this type, Iran drones, are equipped with R-60 air-to-air missiles previously designed for anti-aircraft use. The first use of this modification has already been reported in Ukraine, and one of the such drones was shut down, actually. If those videos and photos that I see are not AI generated, and the drone didn't manage to launch missiles, so therefore on a frame of the destroyed drone you can see missile being attached, right? This R60, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe R60 air-to-air missiles have a heat-seeking warhead, right? It's a heat-seeking missile, so it does not really need a radar guidance. Once this missile tracks heat source, you can launch it, and missile will do its job. Although, of course, decoys might help hostile to avoid being struck by this missile, but not always. Not always. In any ways, interesting developments are happening on the battlefield. Engineers have no break, by the way. Engineers have no break. They are coming up with newer and newer ideas that are eventually then, some of them, maybe not all of them, but some of them then are implemented on the battlefield. And I wonder if there was already successful deployment of these R60 missiles. Could be the case, by the way. Could be the case, because quite often when Kyiv regime was or NATO was losing planes, they were reporting about crashes, isn't it? Those planes were always crashing. And some 2 weeks ago, I read an article in which some Ukrainian militaries were complaining that Russian drones being modified to target helicopters and the planes that are trying to intercept them. And I was a bit confused there because, I was thinking to myself, I mean, how these drones were modernized in a way that they can now target helicopters or the planes. I did not think that missiles could be attached to them. I was thinking maybe drones are turning on the following helicopter or something, but no, missiles, man. Missiles are attached, right? These are active. These missiles have this active seeking, thermal seeking this warhead, and once it detects something, then you can just launch, and if lucky, you will take down some enemy helicopter or the plane. Anyways, interesting development that once again highlights how rapidly tactics evolving on the battlefield. Meanwhile, of course, dear friends, this deception operation that Western elites come up with Trump's 28-point peace plan is continues. This saga continues, and I'm quite sure they're not going to succeed. I'm quite sure Western elites not going to succeed in their attempt to fool Russia again with this Minsk-free, with this attempt to force Russia to agree on some sort of a Minsk-free type of agreement. They will lose this engagement for sure, quasi-diplomatic engagement. But nevertheless, Russia is demonstrating that even though hopefully no one in the Kremlin has any trust towards anyone that represents West. Nevertheless, Moscow is demonstrating that Russia is open for political solution to be found on this crisis, and that's why today Russian president will meet with a special envoy of U.S. President Steve Witkoff. According to reports, his plane already took off from Ireland towards Russia. Right, and obviously, once any details will be known about this conversation between between Putin and Witkoff, I will give you an update on that. Maybe later on today I will have second live stream, second news update. Let's see. Although it is interesting to notice that there was earlier reports that Zelensky and some of his henchmen might have a conversation with Witkoff in Ireland before Witkoff will leave for Moscow. And I'm not sure if such a conversation actually happened or not. Zelensky definitely arrived in Ireland. This is factual, but if there was any conversation between Zelensky and Witkoff, difficult to say. As it is difficult to predict what Trump, fuck Trump, man, what Putin and Witkoff gonna talk about, right? Because based on what is known now, even Western elites themselves don't really know what their plan is. All they wanted, basically, all they were hoping for, European ruling class, American ruling class, is to somehow fool Russia and to gain some time for their proxy Kyiv regime that is failing in parts, right? And for Kyiv regime's armed forces that are on breaking point, right? Maybe they already breached that breaking point, right? And on top of that, in case of US, of course, there is another topic that I think Washington is interested in, which is that they want not just a break for their proxy Kyiv regime, but also to have some sorts of guarantees from Moscow that Russia will seek no revenge on US on a state level, if and when American troops will attack Venezuela and then Cuba and then God knows which other country. I don't think Washington going to receive any such guarantees from Russian side. Not at least before Washington agrees to capitulate, basically, to concessions before Russia, serious concessions, and to withdraw US completely from this proxy war. That is no more weapons, money for Kyiv regime, and no more intelligence sharing with the NATO countries, not just with Kyiv regime, but also with NATO countries, because that intelligence can be then shared with the Kyiv regime, right? And I don't think Washington has any plans to capitulate before Russia. It does not look like it, right? So therefore, probably these talks will be just pure waste of time between Russian president and representative of US Witkoff, as it was the case every other time that they met. Pure waste of time. All Western elites do, by the way, all Western ruling class do is using his attempt to use diplomacy as a tool of deception, as a weapon, basically. All they want is to fool Russia somehow, right? They are not serious about the escalation. We all know this, right? And that's about it. That's all I have to say, really. It's a pure waste of time, and I actually feel sorry that Russian president have to meet with Witkoff. Would be better if assistant of deputy, one of the deputies of Russian foreign minister, or assistants will meet with Witkoff, because who the hell is Witkoff, man? Nobody, right? Faking nobody, man. And the Russian president gonna waste their precious time to talk to this nobody, man. I mean, seriously. But yet again, let them talk. Okay. No one is asking my permission anyways, isn't it? But it just makes no sense. Everyone is freaking laughing, man. Everyone is who is serious about stuff, by the way. Everyone who refuses to pretend is laughing, because this is nonsensical stuff, by the way. From the beginning, all these so-called diplomatic moves on part of collective West was nothing but deception. Period. It is what it is. And I said a million times before, this conflict, this proxy war, by the way, will end when Russian troops reach our borders of the Western Ukraine. Right? Until then, collective West may come up with a million other plans, million other attempts or deception operations, but nothing will work. Nothing will work until Western elites will capitulate. Publicly or behind closed doors, who gives a fuck, man? They have to capitulate, period. Russia has won. Russia beat collective West in this fight. Russia smashed their freaking faces, man, and humiliated collective West on a geopolitical scale. Facts, right? This is factual. And until Western so-called elites will capitulate, special military operation will continue. And I think Western elites most likely will only capitulate when Russian troops reach borders of the Western Ukraine. Western Ukraine is not our concern. Let the Europeans and Americans deal with the Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists that will be compacted in that Western Ukraine at that point, right? But the rest of the territory is going to be liberated and rejoin Russia because it does make all the sense. That's how it's going to be. Although, of course, we should keep in mind that there is also a probability, risks, that is that out of desperation, globalists might actually launch open war against Russia, or Western ruling class might actually launch open war against Russia, while observing that their proxy Kyiv regime and its troops are on a breaking point and collapsing, basically. Collapsing, right? So there is such a risk also. So let's see. Either way, Russia has won, and today, tomorrow, or day after, time will come, and Western ruling class will capitulate. That's it, man. There is nothing really to talk other than capitulation of their collective West. And I don't really understand why Russian leadership is being this polite, man. Just say it as it is, man. Just make statement, capitulate. Just send a message publicly to the collective West. Capitulate and agree on concessions for all the harm that you did to Russian citizens and Russia. Period. Then we can try to rebuild the relationships if possible. We are open for that. But first, capitulate. But yet again, everyone has their own opinions how things should be done. So therefore, And meanwhile, by the way, maybe you were a little surprised to see in a headline that I mentioned regime change in Kyiv. But no, this might actually happen. A regime change. And Valery Zaluzhny went back to Kyiv. Everyone is asking what the hell is going on, why Zaluzhny is there. All sorts of speculations are going on now. According to some reports, if Zelensky, because globalists, by the way, and among globalists, of course, main force, most powerful group is British aristocracy, British financial elites, political elites, right? And because globalists are absolutely not in favor of the escalation, because globalists and British leadership in particular want to further prolong this proxy war as much as possible, they send Zaluzhny in Kyiv to give a strong warning to Zelensky that if you agree on any de-escalation by chance, then you're going to be replaced straight away. They're going to be coup d'etat, right? And Zaluzhny going to replace you immediately. Maybe that's the one explanation why Zaluzhny is in Kyiv. And there are many other explanations. Everyone is speculating on this subject, by the way. And what is interesting, a member of the Ukraine so-called parliament, state rather, Artyom Dmitriuk, wrote this morning, I believe, on his Twitter X page that Zelensky will step down this week. So maybe regime change is actually happening. So member of the Ukraine so-called parliament wrote on his social platform that Zelensky will step down because he has been ordered to do so, to resign, according to Dmitriuk, without specifying who gave such order. So maybe, because American side, the American ruling class is very much focused, or tries at least to be to shift its focus on China, and therefore to be focused on China, they think that's their thinking process. I think they have to take care of their background, right? And that's why they are attacking countries in Latin America, and they need some guarantees from Russia that Moscow will not create some obstacles for them, right? And maybe in this attempt to receive some guarantees from Moscow, they will actually push for some sort of at least temporary ceasefire or something, and they will use their influence in Kyiv to force Zelensky to agree on the escalation, maybe, and then Washington can use this as a bargaining chip with Russia. That you see, I did something, so therefore you give me favor also, and don't intervene in situation in the Caribbean. Maybe that's the calculus of Washington. It would not work, by the way. It would not work, but nevertheless, Washington might actually push Zelensky to retire, and maybe that's why Zaluzhny is there. Maybe that's why Zaluzhny is there, because yet again, I said there like years ago, isn't it, that UK is considering Zaluzhny to be a replacement of Zelensky when time comes, and Washington never agreed on that. Washington wanted its assets to replace Zelensky and his team. So let's see. I mean, today is Tuesday, isn't it? So there is quite time left for Zelensky to resign. We will find out if this report is correct. But something is happening, by the way. Some changes are happening. Western ruling class is clearly entering some new level of desperation, right? And therefore they are becoming more and more dangerous, because desperation forces, especially inadequate elements, to act tremendously crazy. And when it comes to Ukraine, by the way, former Prime Minister of Ukraine stated that corrupt officials there could have bugged over $100 billion from Western aid. $100 billion, by the way. Right now, there is a corruption scandal about $100 million, right? And I was saying straight away, but if there was a true investigation, then talk will be about billions, tens of billions, right? For sure. And former Prime Minister of Ukraine is saying that, well, guys, it's about 100 billion. In reality, that was stolen, at least, right? And probably he knows what he's talking about. Former Prime Minister of Ukraine probably knows Ukraine and knows all the actors there, right? So over 100 billion in Western aid could have ended up in the pockets of corrupt Ukrainian officials, and I will other also in the pockets of their Western allies, let's say. The country's former Prime Minister, Nikolai Azarov, has claimed, according to Azarov, US and the EU have pumped a total of 360 billion US dollars into Ukraine. Corruption in Ukraine amounts to between 15 and 30% worth of foreign aid being stolen. Azarov said in a post on the Telegram on Monday, the figure is closer to 30% in Ukraine. He added, the former prime minister estimated that between 54 billion and 108 billion US dollars could have been lost to corruption. I mean, tremendous volume of money, isn't it? Tremendous volume of money. And I think Azarov is on point, but at least 50, 60, 70 billion, and maybe 100 billion actually was stolen. And this regime is supported enlarged by Western elites, man. That's who West supports, you know. And maybe because of it, maybe because of these enormous levels of corruption, European Central Bank has refused, according to Financial Times, to back 140 billion euro payment to Ukraine using Russian frozen assets. European Central Bank decided the European Commission's proposal violates its mandate, which is quite interesting, isn't it? Which is quite interesting. Even European Central Bank now is saying that, you know what, no, man, uh, we're not gonna play this game no more because I mean, European economies are crashing, man, right? And the European Central Bank is saying, you know what, no thanks, we will try to take care of this damaged, possibly beyond repair European economy first, right? So no money for Kyiv regime, not from us. For this, by the way, head of European Central Bank, Christine Lagarde, might end up in big trouble potentially. Maybe influential forces will even try to remove her from there. And she is not Russia's friend, by the way. She is extreme Russophobe, Russia hater, right? And if you take a look at her interviews, you will realize that straight away. But nevertheless, even she understands that I mean, globalist Western elites are just going too freaking far, and in this pursuit of the sick dream of achieving strategical defeat of Russia, they are actually defeating Europe and destroying Europe. Before I continue, dear friends, let me just take a look at the chat to make sure that there is no reports about some sound issues or other technical issues. Seems like it's all good now. And well, dear friends, before I continue, then let me just highlight that if you like this project, if you like my work, please support her. I do need your support, dear friends. Not gonna lie, this project only exists thanks to support of our community, and therefore, if you like my work, please consider to support. You can do it through several means. You can donate to this project through PayPal platform. You can donate to this project through Boosty platform. You can subscribe to my Patreon page and page on Boosty. And you can choose your level of monthly support there, obviously. And during the streams, like right now, for example, you can use this super chat feature on Rumble to donate to this project, also highlight any question or topic you want, and you can become a premium subscriber on Rumble, or gift premium subscription to others. That will count as a donation also. All the links are on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And you know what, dear friends, you know what, let me share right now on in the chat link to my Rumble, in the chat of YouTube, link to my Rumble channel. And if it's not too inconvenient for you, dear community on YouTube, please click that link there and you will continue watching this live stream on Rumble. You know, please do so if you can, because after all, my channel is monetized on Rumble, and it does make sense to try as much as possible to promote my Rumble channel. And one day, maybe my videos will have thousands of views. Hopefully, this will happen. Anyways, I think I shared Right now, by the way, only 16 members are online on Rumble. So you can help. You can help, by the way. While moving to Rumble, just click that link. So let me continue now with some other news. Let me continue with some other news. And what is next here? Let me check. Well, Peter Szijjártó, foreign minister of Hungary, is making headlines in Russian media, by the way. And this time around, because he basically said what I was saying for how long now, that Europe is preparing for a war with Russia. European elites are preparing countries in Europe for a war with Russia by 2029, by 2030. So Hungarian Foreign Minister Peter Szijjártó stated that Europe is preparing for a military confrontation with Russia, which could occur in 2030. According to the Hungarian minister, EU strategic documents state that the EU countries must achieve combat readiness by 2029. This would allow for a war between Europe and Russia in 2030. MTI news agency quotes Szijjártó as saying, according to Hungarian foreign minister, there is a risk of this conflict across the entire continent in the coming period. And I agree with Szijjártó, or maybe he agrees with what I was saying for quite a long time now, without having access to this internal documentation of the EU. But there was enough indicators anyways, right, from open sources and so on, that tell us what the plans of the European ruling class is. Then their plans definitely are to go to launch a war against Russia, to attack Russia, right? And ideally, they want to prolong this proxy war that they are waging right now while sacrificing Ukraine exactly before 2028, 2029, right? But because Kyiv regime is collapsing, because Kyiv regime's defense lines collapsing, Kyiv regime's armed forces collapsing, European ruling class might make some changes in their plan, and they might provoke direct clashes between European countries and Russia, even in 2026, even in 2025, in next several weeks, by the way. But for sure, in 2026, risk is going to be there. In 2027, but most likely 2026, because I don't think this regime in Kyiv will manage to continue fight through 2026 into 2027 or 2028, right? So therefore that's why, and that's one of the reasons why this Western ruling class come up with this Minsk-free plan, by the way. This attempt to somehow fool Russia with this Minsk-free plan that will not work, right? But they are trying, isn't it? They are trying, man. So yes, I agree with Szijjártó, or he agrees with me that yes, there is a high risk, clearly, that European ruling class will actually launch war against Russia in next several years. Let's say this way. And if so, by the way, then of course that's gonna be beginning of the end of Europe as we knew it, clearly. And when it comes to Western inadequacy of the Western elites, let me just remind you report that I shared with you yesterday, that NATO admiral, by the way, NATO Admiral Giuseppe Gavo Dragone stated that NATO should come up with the plans of preemptive strikes on Russia. They are not even hiding, by the way, or if they are trying, they are very bad in that, to hide their intent. They want to provoke war with Russia because Western elites, by the way, especially European ruling class, cannot live with their idea or thought that they're not gonna be dominant force in this world no more, right? That they're not gonna be even more or less relevant force in this world. Give it another 20, 30 years. They just cannot live with that, right? And they will sacrifice everybody, literally everybody, to avoid this outcome. They would not be able to, I can tell you that, they would not be able to, and they are destined to become absolutely irrelevant, right? Literally absolutely irrelevant on a geopolitical scale. But they don't know that yet, right? They just cannot face this reality. And because of it, they are extremely dangerous. And they are very much capable of going as far as to launching war against Russia, provoking direct clashes between European states that they control and the Russian Federation. And obviously, Russia will take care of them. We don't want war. I have said that many times before, but we don't afraid of no wars, man. I mean, we just don't afraid, man. If Europe starts a war, we will take care of them. That's how it is, man. And it will be very ugly, by the way. It is what it is. Better European societies wake up before it's too late, man. That's why I'm calling European societies to wake up, because their own elites are about to sacrifice them. Well, some other news, dear friends, and well, I said, out this desperate European ruling class, globalists and main driving force among globalists, British ruling class is going crazy, absolutely crazy, by the way. And we have another report about tanker being attacked in the Black Sea, which is of course orchestrated. This terrorist attack is also orchestrated by British intelligence and militaries, because everyone knows that all these maritime operations in the Black Sea that formally conducted by Kyiv regime is in reality orchestrated by British militaries and British intelligence services. Kyiv regime has no freaking means, by the way. Just to make it understandable for everybody, Kyiv regime has no means to operate with these maritime drones hundreds of miles away from the shore. You need to have a satellite navigation for that. You just need to have a satellite navigation. You need to have satellite intelligence, satellite tracking, and many, many other things that Kyiv regime never had. Never. Not just now, but in past, never. So all these attacks in the Black Sea are orchestrated by British militaries and intelligence. Initially, US was actively involved and for quite a while, but based on what I have read, lately, US kind of distanced itself from these Black Sea attacks. Could be true, could be not, I don't know, but UK is definitely in, right, all in. And well, another tanker was attacked, by the way, in the Black Sea, and this report is coming from Turkish authorities that claim that Russian tanker Mid-Volga 2 carrying vegetable oil, by the way, vegetable oil. It's not even a freaking oil or black gold, it's a vegetable oil. But because vessel is a tanker, well, it was attacked. So it was carrying vegetable oil and was attacked. No assistance was requested, allegedly, at least for now. The tanker Mid-Volga 2, and this is quote, reported that it was attacked 80 miles from our shores. At the present, none of the 13 crew members have any health issues, and the vessel does not request assistance. The vessel, with its engines running, is heading towards Sinop, states the Turkish, says this statement from Turkish authorities. So yes, Black Sea is becoming a Dead Sea, by the way, for merchant shipping. Thanks to British Secret Services and militaries, due to their terrorist activity and terrorist activity of their proxy Kyiv regime, Black Sea is becoming a Dead Sea for doing business, for commercial shipping, which will have long-lasting consequences, obviously. And because this type of reports nowadays we are receiving like regularly, I think some people in the Kremlin and the Russian intelligence community and defense ministry probably are thinking what to do about this stuff. How Russia can deter London from further terrorist activity, and well, let's see what they will come up with, right? But at this point, I think only kinetic action can bring British ruling class to their senses. Only kinetic action, by the way. No warnings, no statements will have any influence whatsoever, no matter who is issuing this warning. And I remind you, dear friends, that a few days ago, in case you missed it, a few days ago, 2 tankers, those ones were oil tankers, actually. They were carrying oil, not vegetable oil. So 2 tankers were attacked by British militaries and intelligence services with assistance of their proxy Kyiv regime. And also reports are that off coast of Senegal, another tanker, oil tanker, is sinking right now as we speak. There was no report that vessel sank completely, but it's clearly sinking. Yesterday I shared video, so it's about to go down completely, right? And there was allegedly 50,000 tons of fuel there. Maybe fuel was taken off from the vessel, maybe not. Who knows, right? But tanker is doomed. Tanker gonna sink, and that tanker was attacked also by British. And what is interesting, that tanker that is sinking in off coast of Senegal is a Turkish tanker. It was carrying presumably Russian oil, but tanker was belonging to a Turkish company, right? And 2 tankers that were attacked in the Black Sea, those tankers were attacked in Turkish territorial waters. And yesterday Erdogan, Turkish president, did try to act tough and issue some warnings to all sides. Which all sides? This whore of London, by the way, Erdogan, this British prostitute, come up with a statement that Turkey is issuing warning to all sides to, not to do this kind of stuff. I mean, which all sides? It's a freaking London, right? That is targeting these tankers, man, and their proxy Kyiv regime. There are no all sides. There is one side. Terrorist regime in London and their proxy Kyiv regime, right? That's all. So address directly, say it, London, do not do this shit no more. But no, man, Turkish elites historically are British prostitutes. And it's not going to change, man, until Turkey exists. Until this garbage quasi-state, and it is a garbage quasi-state that did not deserve no freaking respect, no nothing, should never existed in a land of Christians, right? Should never existed, this freaking garbage country. So, but as long as this nonsense historical anomaly exists, elites that are gonna be ruling class in Turkey gonna be British horse. Period. Right? They deserve no freaking respect, man. Not from me. Fuck him all. That's it, man. And Venezuela, by the way. Well, we are receiving little more details about alleged phone conversation that took place between Trump and Maduro. Phone conversation lasted 15 minutes, according to this report, from example, on the TASS news agency, and source is Reuters, by the way. So conversation lasted about 15 minutes. During it, Trump told Maduro he had a week to leave Venezuela for the destination of his choice alongside his family members. As clarified in the report, this deadline expired on last Friday, November 28. In this regard, on November 29, Trump wrote on their social network Truth Social that he had closed their airspace over Venezuela, stating that all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers should consider the airspace over and around Venezuela closed in its entirety. According to Reuters, Maduro, in a conversation with Trump, expressed a willingness to leave the country with the family members, provided he and his family members had a full legal amnesty, including the removal of all US sanctions and the end of a flagship case he faces before the International Criminal Court, as well as the lifting of US sanctions against 100 Venezuelan officials. Furthermore, allegedly, he emphasized that Venezuela's transitional government until new elections should be headed by their country's executive vice president, Delcy Rodriguez. Trump, according to their sources, rejected most of Maduro's demands. Reuters reported that negotiations regarding the possibility of Maduro leaving Venezuela may continue. On November 30. US President Donald Trump confirmed that he had held a phone conversation with Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. And yet again, dear friends, I mean, maybe some people are saying that this is a Western propaganda, that Maduro did not ask for no immunity or sanctions lifted or nothing. Some people say that Maduro will stay and fight in Venezuela. Others say this report is valid, right? This reporter from Reuters. I don't know. I don't really have a strong opinion on the subject. Maybe Maduro actually asked for immunity. Maybe he did not. In any case, seems like sides did not reach agreement, right? Although maybe they will talk tomorrow again and things will change. I don't know, but it is clearly interesting at least, that despite this massive presence of U.S. militaries off coast of Venezuela, in Caribbean, in Gulf of Mexico, U.S. did not launch a military operation yet. And you tell me why, dear friends. You tell me why. My explanation is clear. I spoke about it a million times. I think Washington is seeking some sort of guarantees from Russia that Moscow will seek no revenge on U.S. on the state level. Agreement can be reached between U.S. and Russia on this matter if U.S. ruling class capitulates. If U.S. ruling class agrees on tremendous concessions for all the harm that they done to Russia, Russian citizens, Russian interests, and if American ruling class will pull out U.S. completely from this proxy war that West is waging against Russia, right? Completely, that is no sharing of weapons, no transfer of weapons, no transfer of money, no sharing of intelligence, right? In that case, Moscow might say, Putin might say, or send a message that at least as long as he is in charge, Russia will seek no revenge on the state level. Obviously, Putin cannot talk on behalf of Russia's future presidents because he just cannot, right? So agreement might be reached actually on the subject, but as I already said, by now, for this particular moment, it seems like sides are very far from reaching the agreement. At least based on activity of the U.S. leadership, we have very little indicators that they are willing to escalate with their European partners. And it is escalation, obviously. If US will withdraw from this proxy war, let's say that will, of course, mean a civil war inside the Western elites, right? Western ruling class, because European ruling class is going to go crazy. Absolutely, right? But for now, there is very little indicators. There is something there, for sure, but still very little indicators that American ruling class have decided to distance themselves from their European colleagues, right? And therefore, obviously, there is a very little chance that US will agree on any concessions before Russia, and US will get out of this proxy war. So why would Moscow discuss Venezuela in such circumstances, right? Topic might be discussed today between Putin and Trump, but Putin don't have to say anything. I mean, Russian president can say, you know what, we are concerned with the situation in Venezuela, and we recommend to exercise, both of you to exercise restraint, because if you start the war, then things might happen, some unfortunate things might happen, and Russian president can go as far as to warn the US that Gulf of Mexico might turn into a graveyard for US Navy, and also Caribbean might turn to graveyard for US Navy, and Venezuela itself might turn to graveyard for US military. And by the way, I think this topic of Venezuela and the potential Russian steps to revenge on America could be discussed also today, between, let's say, or maybe already was discussed, because meeting did happen between Shoigu, former Russian Defense Ministry, current Secretary of the Security Council, and Chinese Foreign Minister. And Chinese Foreign Minister and Chinese delegation will obviously have a meeting, not just with Russian Security Council, but also with the Foreign Ministry, obviously, and the Chinese delegation. There is a big Chinese delegation here in Russia right now, by the way, right? Led by Prime Minister of China, I believe. So on all sorts of levels today, this topic of Venezuela and US ambitions and all the other stuff can be discussed, right? And I'm quite sure Beijing will offer Moscow support. I don't think Beijing will dare to provide Venezuela with their necessary assistance to counter US. But Moscow can, man. They have nothing to lose. Relationships already are destroyed between Russia and US, between Russia and the West, right? So we don't really have much to lose, man. And we want to revenge, right? We want revenge, probably. So I think Chinese delegation will tell Moscow, will tell Russian leadership that China will stand next to Russia. China will provide with all sorts of necessary assistance if Russia can actually provide Venezuela with whatever is needed, right, to deal with the US, because everyone understands Venezuela is just the first step, right? If successful, US then go on Cuba, on Colombia, on Brazil, being the biggest country in Latin America, right? US will try to recolonize whole Latin America, all of it. And after that, they will, of course, have a free hand, basically, to actually focus on China. And Chinese don't want this. Chinese understand more trouble US has here and there and elsewhere, then less time and the resources they have to be focused on global South. Correct? And therefore, I see such negotiations behind the closed doors, obviously, and not necessarily on the level of high-ranking officials, but on the level of delegations, by the way, right? In delegations, there are militaries, they are intelligence people, and they will discuss this type of stuff, right? And I think China will maybe even ask Moscow to help Venezuela, while guaranteeing that in return, China will do some favors for Russia. Which anyway, which way will be, possible. So some serious stuff is going on, by the way. Some serious stuff is going on. And my personal take is that US didn't attack Venezuela because they are afraid. They are afraid not to Venezuelan forces, but they are afraid what Russia gonna do. And Russian friends that are also friends of Venezuelan people. Yet again, if people of Venezuela would not fight, Russia would not use Venezuela as a proxy. Russia would not sacrifice Venezuela, as West did with Ukraine. Russia will not operate that way. But if people of Venezuela willingly gonna fight, then of course Russia can provide them with all sorts of means to defend themselves. And Washington knows this. And Washington knows this. They love to act tough, isn't it? This ruling elites in US, they love to act tough, by the way. But in reality, most of them are freaking cowards, man. They are quick to play with the lives of others, but them personally are freaking cowards, man. Right? And there is a big scandal in US, isn't it, dear friends, that some reports emerge in WAPO or Wall Street Journal. Some of the media outlets started, and then everyone is talking about now, that Pat Hexet actually ordered, seems like, to kill survivors from these boat strikes. On September 2nd, US targeted first boat off coast of Venezuela, and few people survived or something like that. And allegedly Hexet ordered to kill survivors. Well, some elements in the West now are using this to attack Trump's administration, that, well, this was a war crime and Hexet committed a war crime while issuing this order. And the US Navy commander who followed their orders and all the SEAL team then who also followed the order, they all committed war crimes. Which is true, they committed war crimes, but attacking these vessels in the first place is a war crime too, because there was no due process, right? And just because US leadership says these people are combatants and these people are like terrorists and drug traffickers, does not mean much, really. Where is the due process? Where is the evidences of anything? So yes, there is a scandal, by the way, and Pat Hexet actually might lose his job, I think, because he's just too freaking inadequate, man. This cowboy style is just embarrassing US, man. Whole world is watching and freaking laughing. Everyone is watching and laughing, man. When this There's nobody's acting like they are, like gangsters and they're big bosses and they're gonna kill everybody and they are this and that. Well, in reality, they are freaking bitches, man. Mistake of nature. That's what they are. Anyways, who gives a fuck about her Hexet, by the way? I don't, definitely. I don't even care, man. What is going on in U.S. internal politics that much? I just don't, man. It's irrelevant. The U.S. Either U.S. capitulates before Russia and agrees on a concession, and that will save U.S. That will save for U.S. Little chances to maintain relevance on a geopolitical scale for upcoming decades. Or U.S. is going down together with Europe. And nothing can help Europe, right? Europe is finished. That's 100%, by the way. There is literally nothing that can help Europe now. And U.S. is going down together with Europe if they not capitulate before Russia right now. They might act tough all they want, but Meanwhile, Sudan has offered Russia the opportunity to establish a naval base on its territory. I mean, when this saga gonna end, man? How many years now? We are hearing about Russian military base in Sudan. One Sudanese government agrees, then another government comes in and begins dismantling the agreement. Then very same government that dismantled agreement starts asking Russia to build a military base again. And I mean, this is just too much of a bullshit, man. And hopefully Russia will stay away from Sudan, man. These people cannot be trusted. This cartoon, man, leadership is actually cartoon characters. And none of them should be trusted and taken seriously. Russia should already have military base in Sudan, like for years now, but there is no base. You know why? Literally every new freaking government challenges previous government's decision on this base, while after some time again coming up with the very same idea that we can make some money, we can sell some weapons, we can benefit if Russia will build the base there on the Red Sea coast of their country. But yet again, why we need this shit, man? I mean, honestly, why we need their military base in Venezuela that will be vulnerable, absolutely vulnerable, right? That will make us more vulnerable. Because this is extremely hostile area, right? Where enemies, potential enemies, have much bigger military presence already and will have this bigger military presence in foreseeable future too. So why are we gonna put our militaries potentially in harm's way? I don't get it. So, no thanks. Hopefully Russian leadership will say, you know what, we try to have a deal with you and this military base and stuff, but, well, no. We are good, man. We are good. I mean, we can talk to Djibouti, by the way. Djibouti is a unique place, isn't it? Everyone has a freaking base there. On the Red Sea coastline, exactly. Strange country, man. There is a Chinese base, American base, British base. I mean, they don't give a fuck, man. They give land to it. They're a tiny country, tiny, but still they have some land, right? And anyone who gives them money can go there and build freaking base. So maybe, I mean, if it's that necessary for us to build the base, then let's talk to Djibouti, man. At least they will honor the agreement, right? While with Sudan, you never know, man. Today they agree, tomorrow they will start talking some shit again. So no, thanks. They should stay out, right? Dear friends, I will end news segment on this report from TASS News Agency that Europe sets a new LNG import record for November. Deliveries reached approximately 12.5 billion cubic meters, which is quite massive. Europe set an all-time record for liquefied natural gas imports in November, according to TAS calculations based on data from Gas Infrastructure Europe, or GIE. Overall, LNG supplies to the region have increased by 28% since the beginning of the year. In November, LNG flows from European terminals into the EU gas transmission system amounted to approximately 12.5 billion cubic meters, 0.8% lower than in October and 33% higher than in November 2024. In total, over the 11 months, LNG flow from terminals into the European gas transportation system remained at the record level, exceeding 129 billion cubic meters, 28.3% more than in the same period of 2024. And well, what can I say, man? They choose it. LNG, we all know LNG is much more expensive than pipeline gas, right? That Europeans had opportunity to enjoy from Russia, though. And because they are all Russia haters, well, they are no longer able, majority of at least, to rely on Russian gas, right? And the consequences are there, by the way. Consequences are there. None of the European economies are succeeding. Most of them are in a recession, right? And the industrialization, because European businesses are no longer able, due to high energy prices, no longer able to compete on the world market. All, by the way, with no exceptions, all major industrial companies in Europe are either shutting down their infrastructure and moving elsewhere or preparing to declare bankruptcy. That's how bad situation is, man, right? Nothing to be said about small and medium businesses. Thousands of them are shutting down, thousands all over the Europe, right? Because, they did not want good relationships with Russia. They did not want to benefit from good relationships with Russia. Okay, let them pay price now. Let them pay price, and price tag is tremendous, man. Tremendous. Europe is doomed. Nothing gonna help them, man. If I was living in Europe, I would take my family out immediately, man, for sure. Immediately, man. Right? If I was if me and my family were English speakers, we would move somewhere, I don't know, man. Australia, New Zealander. We would definitely consider to move to Russia, right? Somewhere out of Europe, man. Europe is freaking doomed, man. Nothing gonna save them. There is not even theoretical chance, man. Some might say, well, if people will wake up, they will, make changes in elites, and that will change everything. But people not gonna wake up, man. That's the story. This is all BS, nonsensical talk. That, well, people will wake up. If they did not wake up until now, how are they gonna wake up tomorrow? I mean, can you tell me that? How are they gonna wake up tomorrow? Who's gonna wake them up, man? Who? There is a tiny minority all over the European countries that are awake. They understand what the hell is going on, but they are too small, man. They cannot influence nothing. And majority is in deep freaking sleep. They've been, and you telling me that they're going to wake up somehow one day? Really? Come on, man. So, yes, if we were living in Europe, in any country, literally any country in Europe, by the way, I would talk to my family to move, man, because Europe is doomed. Absolutely. Only countries in Europe that might have some chances to at least secure themselves on certain level is countries that will manage to have a good relationships with Russia. But yet again, geography plays the role too, isn't it? So if you take a look at the geography, then, well, even that might not be enough, right? So you have to have a link, land bridge with Russia. And Hungary, for example, does not have a land bridge to Russia. So no matter how hard Hungary's government is going to try to save the country, save the people, I mean, eventually they're going to get crushed, man, right? Same goes for Slovakia. Same goes for all the others, man. Europe is doomed. And this is it. This is it, dear friends, for a new segment. I was hoping that I've managed to make update in an hour's time, but well, it's a little longer than that. Let me check Boosty, dear friends, in case there was some question from Boosty. There was nothing there on Boosty. Let me check. Let me check Rumble. Also, no super chats on Rumble, dear friends. But number of members increased. It's 35 people right now on Rumble. Thank you very much, dear friends. If you moved from YouTube to Rumble, when I drop that link. And please click the like button if you can. And many thanks to all of you. Many thanks to all of you, dear community, for being here, for your attention, for your time. This is it for now. Of course, there are going to be some more interesting news during the day. Probably you are interested what will come out from this Witkoff Putin talker and so on. And therefore, I will start preparing next update right now, basically after I will end this live stream. And maybe later on today, for I don't know, 4, 5, 6 o'clock, maybe 7, I will launch a second live stream. Let's see how will things work out. I cannot go out, unfortunately, to do live stream, to do second update for Patreon today. My younger daughter is get cold. She don't feels well, so she's at home, and I'm gonna be next to her, obviously. But she's getting better, so maybe tomorrow I'll be able to go out and do some extra content for our Patreon and Boosty community also. So let's stay in touch. Let's stay in touch, dear friends. Have a wonderful day. And in case you want to support my work, you know, under this video in description box there is a link, isn't it, to PayPal, Boosty, and also you can subscribe to my Patreon. And please do, dear friends, please subscribe to my Patreon or Boosty pages. It's tremendously important to me. So yeah, this is it for now. Have a wonderful day, and take care. Thank you.